few minutes ago, but obviously you don't know how Tyler's going to respond exactly after slumping for a while until he gets in the game. At what point in the game did you realize maybe, okay, he's back to his old self?
First play, it was pretty evident that he was relaxed, he was smiling, playing loose. I mean, everybody was covered on the first play, went and got 8 yards. He was playing with a high sense of urgency and a clear mind. And he's been through a lot, and I think that's, I'm proud of the way he responded, for sure.
Thanks, Phil. I know it's come up a few times during the year, the tight end usage as far as targeting them in the passing game.
Yeah.
How much has Elijah being out for most of the year affected that, and then has it been where you want it to be?
I don't know how much has affected it. Obviously he's a good player. There was certain situations in the game towards the end that, the tight end could have honestly been the hero of the game if there wasn't a little bit of miscommunication. But it's just, we got some young kids out there too, and in those specific situations, things aren't always the smoothest right now. And so, but no, I want to get those guys the ball as much as possible. But that'll come, I promise you, it'll come.
And speaking of the young tight ends, how much, I asked Mario about Jaleel, how much has Jaleel, Riley, and Jackson come along? I know he's Riley a decent amount during the season, but how have they come along?
I think Jaleel's had the last couple of weeks, man, his practice has been really good, been playing fast. And so those guys, everybody's got certain things they need to work on, right? Riley's the more ready guy to play right now. But as time goes, we're going to need those guys to play more and more.
We've seen plenty of examples in college football over the years where an upperclassman loses his job, and not only does he not take it back when the freshman gets hurt, but he's not on the roster anymore. To cycle back. What does it? I'm sorry for the softball, but what is it about Tyler that he was fine? He was. Yeah. He talked on it for 20 minutes last week about how his mental state and all the things that he's working on. He just seems to go out there with a lot of kids.
No, look, sometimes you go through things for a reason, adversity hits for a reason a lot of times, and you can take two roads. He took the high road, man. He took the good teammate, let me focus on what I can do better, let me clear my mind approach. And he was extremely open, got a lot of things out in the open, to be honest, and I think it allowed him to play free, and not worrying about other things, just focusing on the play that's called, the game, the situation, the drive, and executing it to the best of his ability and moving on to the next play, and so his energy out there was phenomenal. He was in tune to everything that was going on. It's the Tyler that, that we know is out there, right? So that was awesome to see.
Can you take us through the fourth down play, just what you were looking for and how it played out?
Yeah, they played 7 across, like a picket fence coverage, red 7. I thought they would play man because that's kind of what they've done. And so we were throwing a slant route to Z, which it didn't matter. That doesn't matter. The coverage doesn't matter. Just the coverage was what it was. And it would have been, the corner is inside leverage. It's on the 3-yard line. And you just got to fight through, cross his face. And, we throw that every week, right, at practice. And so last week, 2 weeks ago, we hit Florida State on the fade ball, and this week I was going to hit it on the slant. And we just aborted. We aborted and went over the top. It was just one of those things, man. In those situations, we just weren't on the same page, And so, is there something I could have called differently? Obviously there always is, Anytime it doesn't work out, look, nobody pokes holes through things more than I do, So there's obviously things that I could have called there in a better situation, but ultimately, in those situations, you got to execute the play that's called, and that play could have been executed. And so we just got to get better in those situations.
What did you see on the last play of the game? What was the thoughts going through your head? Tyler throws it up, X catches it.
Well, I mean, that is, Hail Marys are what they are, right? Low percentage. You talk about, it's not a play you rep a lot because you don't want people jumping up and doing all the stuff that has to do to execute that play. You don't want people getting hurt and all the rest, but you talk about like setting the wall and having a rebound, and it worked out really perfect. The wall was right at the goal line. Kobe went up, a bunch of their guys went up, and it just bounced right back to Strep, and so that doesn't happen a lot, obviously, but it worked out, that time, and it just, and honestly, they're one of their better players, number 3. It was just headsy, because, a lot of players aren't, headsy enough to be dialed in at that moment, and he saw the ball ricochet and Strep get it, and he tackled him. If he doesn't tackle him, I don't know if anybody else sees it, It's just that kid's very, very good football player. And typically those guys like him are in tune to what's going on. And he was, and you got to give him credit there. He made a heck of a play. We were 3 yards short.
And then speaking of Restrepo, he had, his highest career yardage on Saturdays. How have you seen him grow over the past year since you've gotten here and become kind of like a premier receiver?
Yeah, been extremely steady. The growth probably exists in games where he doesn't have 100 and so yards, Receivers are going to have games where they catch X number of balls and they make a lot of plays, and guess what? There's times where a defense is going to focus on you and you're going to be limited, right? How can you affect the game in other ways, blocking and doing some other things, right? What happens when you don't have the ball in your hand? To me, that's probably where he's grown the most, understanding that every game isn't going to be a 10-catch, 100-yard game. It just isn't. You watch football. There's good receivers out there that get double covered and have 2 catches. You know what I mean? So his growth, in my opinion, has came from those situations and understanding that just keep working and the ball will find me,
I think he threw around probably 6 or 7 times, but Kobe only finished with 30 yards. And I think most of those working. I think every time he threw it, he did get it, or maybe it was 1.
Yeah.
But what did they do to kind of keep him playing?
It's just, I don't know if they did anything in particular. Sometimes the ball just goes to other people, In the Florida State game, the ball went to him, and he had 150. It's just, plays are called, and sometimes plays are specifically called for people like screens and stuff, and that has a lot to do with, like, Kobe got 3 or 4 screens in that game. Well, in those situations where I wanted to call a screen, we were on the left hash a lot, where he got it. If we were on the right hash, Jacoby would have got it. Like, a lot of times in those situations, I knew, like, for instance, they were going to go cover 0 at a certain point. Well, when we got to that yard line, we were on the left hash, and the play I wanted to call was a screen, and I wanted to throw it into the boundary, and Kobe was into the boundary. And that's just the way our offense is formatted. You're playing with a certain amount of tempo or whatever, whether you're no huddling or in and out of the huddle. And, X is here and Z is there. And, if it works out that your number's called, then you get to make the play, And so, but the route progression stuff is, the ball's going to find you when coverage exists and you get open, So that kind of stuff is random, and the quarterback has to progress through the defense, And so and again, it's what I talked about with Strep. That's a perfect example. Jacoby, he had a career game against Florida State. This game, he had 3 catches for 30. It's going to happen, there's no other way to explain it, but then that's football.
I know you don't look at things this way, so I apologize for the question, but how do you prepare for competitions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? Like, how do you game plan for play someone out there?
You talking about how do I don't have to game plan for him.
I know, but you do go, your kids go against him.
Yeah.
I told you it was kind of out there, but
Right.
I don't think you probably face too many DBs that
No, I mean, going against him in preseason, you notice it more because we're going against our defense every day. Throughout the season, we have a couple periods against our defense, but it really isn't. It's stuff that I'm doing for this opponent. It might not fit what I'm doing against our defense. I'm just repping plays, so I'm not really. There's not a logical thought process trying to attack our defense, but going against in the preseason, he has a knack for being where the ball's going. It's just some players understand spacing and formations. I mean, there's times where the quarterback, our quarterback is trying to look him off, but he knows where you're going with the ball. You know what I mean? It's like he just understands football. His football IQ is just a little bit higher than everybody else's. That's why you see him, heck, when he picked that ball off in the game, I mean, I was standing almost directly in line with the ball. I thought it was a touchdown the other way, and then he just flies out of there and catches it, and makes it look easy. So, yeah, some people just have that knack, right?
Going to Boston this week, how did a lot of the players being from the South or South Florida, and a lot of the coaches being from the South or South Florida, how do you guys prepare on offense for cold weather games? And if you can do it, just kind of have to tough it out.
Yeah, I mean, look, we tell them how it's going to be, and the one thing I've always told kids, and this strikes home most of the time, is everybody wants to play in the NFL, right? What if Green Bay drafts you? You're not going to play, right? And so you better, you better find a way and be mentally tough enough to play in every climate. Because if you want to play at that level, then, anybody can take you. And then if you want to play late in the season at that level, you're going to have to play in some cold games, And so that's just the way life is. And so the quicker you can get over that, and it's really, honestly, it's a mental toughness deal. That's all it is. I mean, call it what it is.
Any personal thoughts on being up there when it's 30, 40 degrees?
It doesn't bother me. I mean, I've been in some really cold games. I mean, I coached in West Virginia for 5 or 6 years, 5 years, and so it gets cold there. To me, I mean, I've always thought that where I was from, when it, because the humidity is so high in South Louisiana, when it gets 45 there, it's colder than 45 in West Virginia. I just felt that because it's bone chilling cold, So, I mean, it's, but, after the initial, getting out there, I mean, it's pretty much over with.
Is that same for, is it a little different for a quarterback who has to grip the ball? I don't know.
I mean, not when your quarterback is, bigger. For me, personally, yeah, it was a problem because wasn't a very good quarterback and my hands were small and all the rest. But, for guys that play here, it's not that big of a deal.
Hey, Shannon, you're 11 games in, so obviously there's a million opinions about the whole season. One of the things that a lot of people say is that is not the air raid. They're thinking Mike Leach, throw air raid down all over the field, that kind of thing. And you came here as an air raid disciple. How much air raid have you been able to run this year? And if you haven't, have you had to run a lot less than you would like?
Well, I mean, first of all, air raid is a term that's used, and I don't really know exactly what that is. I mean, the pass game that we have is what I learned from who I learned it from, right? Now, as you evolve over time, you become a little bit more balanced based on, who you want to be as an offense, So, yeah, the pass game, our pass game, blueprint is air raid. It's the same thing I learned 20 years ago, Now, do we throw it every time? No, there's nobody out there that throws it every time, It just, I mean, the guy that did that passed away last year. He was really the last guy that, was throwing it as much as he wanted to, He also worked for himself, right? And so, I mean, but we want to play compatible football here, right? And so I'm trying to do everything I can do to move the ball as much as I can and also have a lot of other things in my mind. I'm trying to, I don't want to put our team in a bad position. And I don't want to, if I'm struggling and we're not getting first downs like I want to get first downs, I'm going to go a little slower. because I don't want to go 3 and out fast, because I know our defense might have just went out there for 8 or 10 plays. And so the logic behind speed of play, to me, has a lot to do with understanding how the flow of the game is. You can go fast every play if you want to and play 100 snaps, and your defense ultimately at some point during the season is going to break, because they're playing too many snaps, and they're going to give up plays and yards and stuff that they wouldn't give up. And so to me, to be a better football team overall, the pace of play matters. I think going fast is great. When we went fast Saturday, we had chunk plays. We went fast and we hit Jacoby with the post. Well, we got to get in a rhythm to go fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you're getting first downs and you're getting in a rhythm, yeah, go fast, If we're not, then I'm probably not going to go fast. And it all depends on how the flow of the game's going. They were having some longer drives too. And so ultimately, I wanted to try to have some longer drives. And so just so the plays that you play in a game aren't just tilted, And so, I don't really understand exactly the question in the sense of air raid unless you mean like fastball all the time. Is that what you mean?
Well, I just think people are judging, obviously, and they're saying that, you came here with this whole air raid.
Yeah. Well,
and they're saying that is not the air raid.
Well, I don't think they know what the air raid is, first of all. I mean, the people that are judging don't have a damn clue. So if you want to be completely honest, because the air raid is a mentality. It's not a play, It is more of like, hey, this is the pass game that lied in this system is the same blueprint that I use and a handful of other people use that learned it that way, Now, the way in which we use it is different, no doubt, there was years ago, I never huddled and I went as fast as I could go every time, Yeah, and we were, one of the top 5 to 10 offenses in the nation every year, and we were about 117 on defense. Well, there's a reason for that, because the two can't exist in the same deal. So if you want to be good on both sides, then there's some compatible football that has to exist, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Now, am I happy with the way the offense is this year? Obviously not. At times I'm not displeased with it, but we had a stretch there that was not acceptable, especially starting the way we did, and then we had a 3 or 4 game deal that we didn't play very well. We played better Saturday, but we didn't play good enough because we got to score one more point than the other team scores, and we had a chance to do that, and we didn't. So that second to last drive, we have to finish. We got to do better in that situation. But, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but.
One more for Coach Dawson. So to be clear, when you work for yourself, you're chucking it all the time.
No, I didn't mean that. What I meant was like, his mentality, is what it is, or was what it was. It's, obviously, he was a interesting and important character in football for a long time, and a guy that obviously I looked up to, and a lot of people that knew him looked up to. It's hard to believe that that he's not here anymore, but he was really the last guy that did it the same way that it was done 20 years ago. When him and Coach Mummy really orchestrated the offense, it was a throw it every time. Very seldom run the football. Well, times change, defenses change. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot more people today that drop 8. Dropping 8 and throwing it every time is tough, because the windows are smaller and all the rest. And you can see that, like at the end of the game at NC State, they're dropping 8 every play. Well, guess what? If you don't have the ability to run it a little bit and get them to play honest football, then drop 8's tough. That's why people do it at the end of games.
Is it the Pirate Obsession, Key West, how he can opine on literally any topic?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it is that he's not a robot. So many people in our profession are like, think they have to be a certain way and talk a certain way and all the cliches or whatever. He was just not that, and I that's probably what I appreciated the most watching his interviews and just knowing him, it was just like, he didn't really care what you thought, you know, and he wasn't trying to be Mr. Coach, you know, and he wasn't going to do things just because so-and-so did it that way, you know. If it didn't make sense to him, then he wasn't going to do it. And the structure of everything was like that, you know, and so I think that, you know, that was probably the biggest thing.
Thanks, Coach Dawson.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.